You want a brat with a real pop of flavor? Try these. Here I'm going to walk you through a jalapeno popper brat, and I'm going to be using two really cool inclusions. I'm going to be using already cooked rendered bacon, and I'm going to be using cream cheese instead of high temp cheese. I'm going to be dicing up that cream cheese when it's frozen so that once we mix it into the meat block, it doesn't smear all the way through, and when we're done, we'll have nice creamy pockets. Now, the first thing I need to do for our sausage is get some of our inclusions ready. I have our cream cheese set in the freezer to freeze and get a good hardness on it before I cut it up. And I also need to chop up our bacon and get it rendered. I'm not putting raw bacon into our meat block this time because I want more of a bacon bit type texture and flavor profile. I have 6 pounds of bacon here, and that may seem like a lot, but once it's rendered, it's going to be the perfect amount for our meat block. Now, we all know that when we add inclusions into our meat block, we want them to be nice and cold. So another reason why I have to do this first is so that we can cool those bacon bits down appropriately before adding and mixing into our meat. So all in all, really important to get this part done first. For our jalapeno popper brat, we're going to be using pork butt for the majority of our meat block. Pork butt is really great for sausage. The fat content, as you can see, is really good for flavor and moisture, and it's readily available at the supermarket, so that's what we're going with. So while our bacon is rendering, I figured now would be a good time to break down our pork. Then I can get it into little pieces and then into the freezer to chill it before we start grinding. And here we have our cream cheese, which I'm going to dice and then put right back in the freezer. I had this in the freezer for about an hour or so, so it got nice and hard. Just gonna make it really easy to dice. And we're gonna cut it down to that like 1/4 inch size, kind of like we would have a high temp cheddar or high temp mozzarella if we put it in here. So that same inclusion size that we normally see. And this cream cheese is gonna give us a really nice creaminess to our brat, and it will cut some of the spice as well. Took about 45 minutes to render our bacon. And now we're going to cool this down because, as with everything that we add to our sausage, we want it nice and cold so we don't heat up our meat block and cause smearing. And I'm no dummy, so I'm also going to save all that rendered bacon fat, and we can use that in a lot of different recipes. You can use it for making breakfast foods. You can mix it 50-50 with butter for making bacon butter, which is a really nice thing to have around. Either way, all of this is useful. Into the freezer we go, and then we're going to start our grinding process. We're going to do a really standard grind for our sausage today. We're going to start with our 3/8 inch plate, which I have loaded up on our grinder already. Then once we grind once, we're going to switch to a 3/16 inch plate for our second grind. After which we'll be starting to mix in our seasonings and our inclusions. Time for the second grind. We've got some really beautiful particle definition here, which means our parts and our meat was really cold. So that's a great sign for our mix process. I'm going to put a little bit of ice through our auger here to get all of that meat out, and then we can start mixing in our inclusions and our seasoning. For our brats, we're going to be using our jalapeno popper brat seasoning. This has a really great blend of flavors like sour cream, cheddar, bacon, and of course, a lot of jalapeno. This is going to be a perfect complement to our meat block using pork like this, and it should be really delicious. Now, when you order this, it's going to come designed for a 25-pound meat block. All we have here is 10 pounds, so I do need to weigh out the appropriate amount of seasoning for our meat block. Now, this being jalapeno, you want to be pretty careful when you're pouring this, because if it gets in the air, you're going to be coughing a little bit. So do take your time and make sure you're nice and gentle. There we are. We're going to gently pour this into our meat block. We'll add some water and start mixing. Now, water, as usual, helps distribute the seasoning throughout the meat block and also adds a good amount of moisture. So gently, before this gets all up in the air, we're going to mix in that seasoning. Once we're well distributed and our protein extraction starts to take hold a little bit, we'll go ahead with our inclusions. All right, so we're nice and tacky, which means our protein extraction is there, so let's fold in our inclusions. Our frozen diced cream cheese and our diced bacon, rendered 1 pound. Now we'll gently fold this in until it's just barely mixed in. We don't want to break down those inclusions too much. We want them nice and whole throughout our meat block. It's time to get our stuffer set up and start loading our casings so we can finally make our sausage. I have our sausage stuffer set up with a 3/4 inch horn, and now I'm going to fill it with our meat block. And we're going to start filling at the center of the hopper here and push down in the middle and work that meat out toward the walls. This will help us avoid some air pockets that might come as we load her up. So what I do is I'm going to bring that plunger down, start pushing the meat block through the horn here. And once it hits about 90%, I stick my finger in there so I can feel it coming. As soon as it hits my finger, I back off the pressure so I stop pushing the meat block out. Now I can load up my casings. These are 32 to 35 natural hog casing, which I've had soaking for about an hour in some warm water. Now that I've got them all threaded on here, we can start stuffing our sausage. Now we're going to link up, and we're going to go about every 6 or 7 inches, pinch, pinch, and twist. And this way, we're only twisting once, but we're getting twice the amount of links. And this last one, we're going to go a little long, so we don't have a teeny one at the end. Linked up, I'll go through with our sausage pricker, start eliminating air pockets. And if you feel like you've understuffed your casings a little bit, just give them a few extra twists, and that'll help bring that meat block in and give you a nice tighter sausage. I have a bunch of beautiful jalapeno popper brat sausage all cased up, and it's ready to go in the fridge overnight. I'm going to set it in the fridge overnight for 2 reasons. It's going to help that flavor develop really well and spread out evenly throughout the sausage. And second, I do have an inclusion with the jalapeno flakes that come in the seasoning blend. Letting them sit overnight is going to allow those jalapenos to absorb a little bit of moisture and soften up for a better texture. After about 12 hours in the fridge, our brats are ready to try. I'm going to break them up, link them up, and backpack the majority of them, but I'm going to grill a few up so we can finally try our sausage. And now the best part about my job is tasting. Look at that. So right away, we've got jalapeno, got bacon, got cream cheese. Looks really nice and juicy, which means we have a lot of fat retention, which is great for flavor and texture, we know. So let's try it. It tastes like a jalapeno popper. It's got a great level of spice. The creaminess from the cream cheese cuts the spice a little bit, but adds a great moisture. The bacon, this is like loaded with bacon flavor. So I'm really happy with that. Texture's great, so we had a good grind, good fat retention. So I paired these with some caramelized onions, which I made in that bacon fat that we had rendered. And you could dip this in ranch, but this is gonna be a really good solid brat to have on a good summer day. Nice cold beer, a few people around. Awesome, awesome brat. All in all, really happy with the way this turned out. I think this is one of my favorites that I've made in a long time. If you like this recipe and want to know more about it, including some of the products I use, check out psseasoning.com. If you like the video, please click subscribe for more content. And as always, check us out on all forms of social media. Till next time, I'm Chef Jed. Thanks for watching.